really excited today to have an opportunity to have this water cooler conversation. The idea of it is just for us to get together in this time, have some conversation, talk about what's going well with our programs, to share challenges
Is
and
there
the
for? And
strategies
after
that we're using,
workers,
as
which is
well as just be in company with each other. And today I'm most excited because we have an esteemed guest speaker, the Reverend Dr. Alfonso Wyatt. And I'm going to talk, I love that one. Today's title is Getting Back to Hope Road. And a theme for these water cooler conversations have been that we're not going back, that we're going forward. And so the idea of getting back to Hope Road, getting back to being hopeful, getting back to the things that are positive, that are moving for young people and for our families, and keeping ourselves and our staff optimistic and moving forward. The next. So, our speaker today, our esteemed speaker, is the Reverend Dr. Alfonso Wyatt. Um, my Uncle Fonzie, as I like to call him, is on the staff of the Greater Allen Cathedral. He provides vital leadership to both adults, young people, and young adults in both sacred and secular communities. I met him when he was the vice president of the Fund for the City of New York, which he served over 2 decades. And now he is an entrepreneur, a writer, a mentor, a motivational speaker, and a very, very dynamic person. It is my honor to present him. He will be talking to us about hope and about ways in which we work with our communities that bring them up. So without further ado, the Reverend Dr. Alfonso Wyatt.
That to take me off. Thank you, daughter, and thank all of you for being here. As you heard, my name is Alfonso Wyatt, and I am an unapologetic youth developer. I've been blessed to work with young people for most of my adult life and work with institutions that serve young people. I was at the fund when YDI was birthed, when it was on a piece of paper and it came into fruition. Pardis and I, as you heard, go back. Um, I have many daughters. She is one. Her, I don't see her name up there, Sabrina. I don't know where she is, but she is also part of the family. I
I'm
don't meet
here.
strangers. What she say?
I'm here.
No, I'm like, ooh, mother. I don't meet strangers. Um, Anybody that's down for our children, we are family. So I see this as an opportunity to have a family check. I see this as an opportunity as an elder to make sure that those who are out in the field, those who are doing work, those who are planting seeds, to make sure that you get what you need and to make sure that you're safe and that your family is safe. I'm going to tell a story about Hope Street. It says Hope Road, but Hope Street. And and let's see if it is enough that when you go into the chat room that you're able to do and to have a discussion. I'm going to ask for the next slide. One of the things that I want to talk to you about is change. I'm only going to spend a minute on this. All of us are in varying states of dealing with change. The coronavirus has changed everything. And now we're trying to find our setting. We're trying to find our peace. So this is a change formula. And it's just simply, the D is for dissatisfaction with the present state, times vision for the future state. times first steps. Dissatisfaction times vision times first steps must be greater than resistance. Resistance is that noise that we hear in our heads that tell us that this is going to be forever. Resistance can be manifested as anxiety. Resistance can be manifested as fear, fear of the unknown. There's so much that is not known that for folk who are prone to paranoia, these are probably the worst days to be in because every day it can be something else. Next slide. Here we go. Somebody say, here we go. Somebody snap your fingers. Somebody wave your hand in the air like you just don't care. Somebody say, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You see what happens when you mute. You can't hear all of that, but I know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know you there. Sometimes adults have a hard time with me. I'm talking about, you know, the people. They said, well, why you act like that? How come you like that? I told them that young people broke me down a long time ago. And I also tell them, if you work with young people and don't want to have fun, you in the wrong business. That's why this presentation is important because we're in some perilous, turbulent times. I got a phone call from a friend of mine. I reached out to her because I started reaching out to people that I hadn't heard from. And as we were talking, and you know, usually you go through, when you call people, we always got to go through what the virus is doing or who's here, who's not here. So we did those COVID-19 preliminaries. And out of the blue, she just asked me, how are you? Now, many times people ask us how we are, and we're all kind of used to saying, oh, I'm taking it one step at it, one day at a time. Oh, I'm hanging in there. And then we move on to whatever. I didn't want to say that. When she asked me, how are you? I said, I don't like the street that I'm on. I got to get to Hope Street. That's where I function best. And family, do you know from the moment those words escaped me, I felt a lifting in my spirit. I felt a kind of coming back to me moment. And not only did I feel it, she felt it. She felt it to the extent that she said, I feel better just hearing you say that. So you don't have to tell Uncle Fonzo too many times. I said, I'm going to say this as much as I can to anybody that will listen, that I got to get back to Hope Street. I got to get off that street that I was, you know, that paranoid place. I got to get off of Anxiety Avenue. I got to stay away from Depression Drive. I got to look and be careful not to find myself stuck on Listless Way or Joyless Junction. Those are streets that I don't function well on, but I've been on. The reason we are experiencing what we are experiencing is that there's very few times, and I don't think we'll, God forbid, I don't think we'll ever see this again in our lifetime when the whole world is trying to figure out the same thing. It's not natural. It's not normal. Our very anchor, the very things that, the routines that we are anchored in have not only been disrupted, many of them have been demolished. Our brain doesn't function well in chaos. Our brain is designed to find order that is part of our survival. So now our brain is thinking it's not doing its job. That's some people's brain. Other people's brains said, I ain't dealing with this and have checked out. Some people's brains can't shut off their vigilance, hyper vigilance. And for my, I don't have everybody's screen, but for my overthinkers, where are my overthinkers? Where? Go just raise your hand or do whatever to make that little hand appear on your picture. Overthinkers, you have to be careful because there's too much to think about now. Because what you think about, what you think is true, ain't true, and then you're thinking about what's the next truth, then you can't go to sleep, then you're wondering if you thought enough. And now you done gave yourself a headache. I had to get to Hope Road, beloved. I had to get to Hope Road. Hope Road is where dreams are reborn. Hope Road is where you can find people who care about people. This Hope Road / Hope Street, look at it, just printed Hope. Just 4 letters. But there is so much power in hope. We work every day to help young people find hope, that they can be somebody when everything is telling them, not you. We've got to borrow some of the strengths of our young people. We talk about resiliency factors. Well, we have to be resilient. We've got to find that bounce back ability on Hope Street. We've got to find that ability to persevere, to push, to go beyond what we think is our borders or our barriers. We need that grit that our young people have if we're going to do well on Hope Street. We've got to have that toughness. Some of you have picked up some extra jobs for those that have to deal with homeschooling. In addition to everything else you have to do, you have your family. Involve them on Hope Street. Ask them about their dreams. Ask your children about your dreams. Assure them that this nightmare, this collective nightmare that we're all starring in, oh my goodness gracious, that we're all starring in. I'm in your nightmare and you in mine. I don't even know you. You may never seen me before, but we are feeling the same nightmare. So as I get ready to, I'm not going to discharge you to the talk rooms. I want you to talk about hope. I want you to talk about what you do to kindle hope. I want you to talk about what you do to relax yourself, to re-energize yourself. Back on them other streets, it's about a scramble. But on Hope Street, it's opportunity to reflect. What are things? I know I'm hitting you with a lot of questions. Facilitators, take notice. The first, what are we doing to refresh ourselves? The second question is, what have you learned about yourself, the community, your family, others in this pandemic period? And then the last is, how are you sharing hope? Kwadi said it, how are you sharing hope with others? Those are 3 questions. And then whatever else comes up around that, feel free to go. I will be here popping into, I guess, into a room or 2. And we'll come back, and I understand there'll be some Q&A and statements made. And please use your chat room. I love all of you. I speak blessings into you. I'm getting psyched and hyped. So let me let this part go, and I'll continue that when I do my sign off after the Q&A. I turn it back over to the holders, to the people with the buttons.
Oh, thank you so much, Alfonso. This was amazing. I think it's something that we all needed to hear to kind of think about it. But now it's time for us to really ponder. He gave us a lot to think about. Um, One of the questions that I have asked you guys to think about when we go into the rooms is, how are you fostering positivity and hope into your young people, into your staff, into the families that you work with? But he gave us two other things to ponder. What are we doing to refresh ourselves, which is so important? How are we taking care of ourselves? What are we doing to take care of ourselves? And what have we learned about ourselves, which is something I keep thinking about every day, like, what is making me stronger? What am I learning about myself? So what we're going to do now is we're going to split up into breakout rooms. You'll have a excellent. So it seems like we're all back. I'm hoping that the other room had as a spirited conversation as we did. It was really great. I thank you all so much for your input and your strategies. I'm breathing, I'm meditating, I'm praying, I'm thinking about all these things that you guys just taught me, and really looking forward to having a more conversation with Dr. Wyatt.
Yep.
So,
Hold on.
While we're waiting to get back, I just wanted to share with the group that we ended up actually exploring the, in addition to the questions, one of the equation that Reverend Wyatt presented about dissatisfaction times vision times first steps has to be greater than the resistance. And one of the things that we began to talk about was often it's the resistance right at this particular moment, the resistance side feels bigger. And so we began to talk about how do you break down that resistance by promoting vision and skills and motivation. So
maybe you guys can share a little of that, and then I'll share a little bit of the questions that we had in our session.
We went through the first three questions about what are we doing to refresh ourselves, what we've learned about ourselves, and how are we fostering hope and positivity, and exchanged a lot of really great strategies. Somebody asked Tiffany Rodriguez about how to play a live version of Temple Run if you have questions. And you know, people were talking about how their young people are experiencing a lack of hope, or in some cases fostering hope even within ourselves by recognizing the strengths that they remember from when we were together in person. But again, we began to talk about that notion of how do we make all of this greater than the resistance? And so I ended up sharing this document at YDI that many of you may have seen before, which is about managing change. And it's just a quick triage tool for figuring out when you are experiencing a resistance to change or difficulty managing change. And obviously, this is the biggest change that any of us have ever experienced in many ways. This is a way of figuring out what you need to do better or what you need to increase or focus on when you are trying to do that. And we specifically drop down to this, if you look on the right-hand side, underneath it, the bottom line is, if you're seeing people who seem confused, they're not clear about the vision. What are we trying to do? If you see people who are clear about it, but are anxious or saying that they can't do it, they're concerned about their skills. But if you see folks that seem resistant to change, or they're not really participating in it, it's because they often lack the motivation. And so Marcel brought up a really good example of, we've done this before. We've been here before. We've all had that day camp experience when you told young people we were going to the beach or to the pool and it rained, and you had to come up with something else and re-motivate them to engage in the day. And those are the skills that we have to draw on to motivate our staff and to motivate our young people. So that's kind of where we ended our discussion. What happened in your part of the woods, Pardis?
Excellent. We shared a lot of resources, especially around the ways in which folks are motivating. But for Dr. Wyatt, we had some questions around this uncertainty, right? And how do you help people keep their motivation when they're just so unsure, right? There are days that I wake up, I was sharing that I'm like, what am I getting dressed for? I'm not going anywhere. What am I doing all this work for? We're never going to leave the house. Like, what are ways in which you keep folks motivated and keep them hopeful when there's so much change and so much uncertainty in the world?
Great
And it
question.
might be existential question, but we wanted to pose it to you.
Well, we're living an existential existence. And I was so happy to see the managing change piece. I wasn't going to bring up, and I didn't delve into the change formula, because the first level that we're dealing with has to be ourselves. There is the intellectual part of us where we can look at diagrams and look at change formulas,
Alexa,
but it's us. It's what's happening inside of us. So the first person, before you can motivate anybody, the motivation has to come from within. And for me, the things that motivate me, I like to write. I was thinking that I was in the bed. I got up 4 o'clock in the morning and started writing. And now to somebody else, that may sound crazy, but for me, it gives me purpose. The fact that I could send something to somebody and help them. So by helping others, I help myself. And one of the things that we have to do is find ways of how we can participate in our own self-healing. So you may be a cookie baker extraordinaire. Why don't you take some next door? Or you may know how to fix things. And somebody in your house, apartment, neighborhood, family, something's broke. Get your tools and fix it. When we reach out to others, we reach into ourselves. That's what I would suggest. Those people that's dropping groceries on people's doors, all of those kind of things, those are the things that I tend to look at and I get excited, period.
Another thing that we were pondering, people had such interesting ways in which they were taking care of themselves. There was gardening, there was meditation, there was prayer. There was so much that folks was giving to their communities. I think another thing we'd like to hear from you is when you go out and when you see people, what are they struggling with? I think one of the things that people often feel is like, am I doing the right thing? I know I'm doing stuff, but am I reaching people? Am I able to help? What are some of the things that you're saying and some of the suggestions you can make for folks to be able to help people to find purpose in what they're doing?
People cope with stress and trauma in different ways. The thought, especially from the mental health community, is that the next wave, not so much coronavirus as much as post-traumatic stress. People, I mean, this is, and my son Alejandro was on there. I've known him since he was a baby. I've been trying to hit him since he was 4 years old. This is different. I want y'all to hear this. This is a collective trauma to the world. This is not cutbacks. The mayor is not going to fund SYEP. That's only a small little pebble. Everything that is connected has become either disconnected or has to be reconnected. Things that worked 59 days ago may not work in this present dispensation. Resistance is not just personal, it's organizational, it's institutional. We have a government that is resistant to people who live in democratic states. You can be as creative as you want, but that resistance that this governor is trying to face is real. None of us grew up with this amount of pressure. We had pressure, dating, you're gonna get a little kiss, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get that. This is different. So the first thing, and I think it was said, I think Brother Marcel, who I was supposed to meet with, and we haven't gotten a meeting yet, but now we're meeting on Zoom, is that you have to accept the reality that you're in. And you can't try to fix what you don't have the levers or the tools. Some people are trying to fix what's not in their purview to fix and ignoring the things that they can fix. And that's inside here. That's why I'm talking about hope. For some, that may have sounded like a romp in the park. But if you don't have a spark that kindles you, that helps you to understand.
I'm going to open it up. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask Dr. Wyatt? That's a question?
Yes, no, that wasn't a question. I was just clapping my hands.
Oh.
Because that is one of the ways that I've really been able to cope, and without even really realizing it, is really just taking this opportunity to reach out to people around the country, friends and families and loved ones and around the world that I haven't had a chance to talk to, in the last year or two or three. And it is really was a blessing for me. I was calling to check in, but it really just provided me a joy that I wasn't operating from prior to reaching out.
Yeah, my question is not really it's a question. I just want to know, like, what do you do for yourself? Like, who's helping you cope and who's helping keep your spirits up? Because it's good for you to do it for us and everybody else, but I'm just curious, like, who's helping you keep your head on your shoulders and thinking positive to help others think positive as well?
That's a great question. And I'm Brother Reese, and I'm happy. That's why I told the story of Hope Street. Somebody asked me how I was doing, and in an honest, reflective moment, I said, I don't like the street that I'm on. I gotta get to Hope Street because that's where I function best. So now I'm a minister. I'm not just looking at problems. I have to look at myself in the problem and to know that I have to do what I have to do in order to restore my inner person, my inner spirit. And it's also your personality. We had problems before COVID. Oh, I'm not gonna get no help on that. We had problems. Come on, snap it up, clap it up, however you raise them up. COVID, the pandemic, has exposed either weaknesses, could be one word, disconnects inside of ourselves. I came up with this thing, and I'm gonna give it to you. All of us are in COVID-19 university. What are you learning? That's why I asked that question. What are you learning from your troubles? Trouble can be more than troubling. Trouble can be transformational. So Brother Reese, I can look in the trouble and see if I can learn something. Do I get down? Yeah, I'm a human being. I'm not a robot. But I'm gonna pick myself up. I'm gonna lift myself up. I'm gonna plug into my power source that gets the Energizer bunny inside of me running again. And I don't want it running to the dark. I want it to run towards the light. There was a lot of imagery and existential, since you used that word, daughter, thought in that. And if you want to go deeper, My email is right there. Hit me and let me go deeper. And thank you for asking, my brother. I really, really do appreciate you.
Thank you. I just saw your email in the chat box. I'll definitely hit you up after this. Thank
Get
you.
it, brother. Get it. Don't forget to laugh. One of the first casualties, Elie Wiesel, a great writer, God rest his soul, on the Holocaust, said that the first casualty of war is humor. So if I can make somebody smile, make somebody laugh, that lifts me up. So I'm not always in this kind of melancholy, gray funk, this fog that's on me all the time. And yeah, Sabrina, you right. So we gotta take the plug out. I don't even read the newspaper anymore. I look at the headlines. I think one Sunday I just looked at all the people that got married, just reading about how they met. I mean, I can't just function in problem land all the time. And you are leaders. I think someone said that all of you are leaders. But sometimes even the leader got to put down his or her stick, shield, and be vulnerable. Those lessons from COVID-19 university, some of them are going to be defining moments that change how you see yourself, how you see family, how you see community, how you see your work, not just for 10 minutes, but for a lifetime. And it was trouble. I wish I could tell you that the things that I remember that were transformational happened during good times, during happy times, during times that I wish would never end. No, transformational lessons come through pain, through trouble, through hurt, through being in a position where you say, I will never do so-and-so again, fill in the blank. I will try to do this and that, fill in the blank. Those are transformational troubles, and transformational lessons are going to come out of this. And I don't want to sleep it. I'm sorry, I've got a little long on that.
My question is, I mean, this happened a while ago and I was able to cope with the situation, but I just wanted to hear from you, like how you would have handled the situation. So I had a staff member, I was trying to get everybody connected in our program and reach out to those who were not working remotely with us and still try to keep them updated with what's going on in the organization. And they lashed out at me as I was trying to explain to them about a training. And when I was dealing with the situation, I was taken aback because I wasn't expecting this person to get rude and then hang up and be insubordinate with me. And then my way of dealing with it is I vented to, my supervisor and, we handled it in that professional manner, but it literally broke me down in a whole nother way that I didn't think I was going to deal with or have happened to me just because of what's going on with this whole COVID situation. Because in my mind, I was just like, we're going through so much. How can people still not be humble in a time where this is calling us to be that the way? So my question is to you, have you ever dealt with a situation where you weren't expecting it and it was a negative part that was brought to your attention and like how did you handle it?
Reflective. Yes, I've been there.
Yeah.
Most people, you are who you are in COVID or through COVID. So this pressure that people are feeling have made them default back to their selves. So if a person is snippy, they're going to be extra snippy. And it may not even be personal. It may have nothing to do with you. It may be frustration that I don't have Wi-Fi and my child ain't learned nothing all week. And it's transferred to you. Generally, people who are in leadership take on a parental role anyway. There's some people that can't handle no. Who are you? You don't tell me what to do. Now, we don't know that perhaps they grew up in a home where that's all they heard was no. So I'm going to find out, and especially if I am a supervisor, let's go offline and let's review this. Where were you when you said, what, you know, we played back the scenario? The second part to this is that I have never, at least I fight hard not to take on someone else's spirit. I am not going to ever give up power over me again. This is one of the things that I said when I was in trouble, daughter. I said that I am not going on trips, no more trips that I didn't pack the bags for. You got that? I'm not going to diminish me so that I can show you that I can out whatever you. I can out cuss you. I can out ignorant you. What? No. We're gonna have to just put a pause there and revisit this. And then the third thing is that I will let people know that I am going to try and help you not to commit job suicide. Job suicide is when your anger or when there's stuff that's going on that is bubbling up so deep that your anger can impact your ability to take care of your family. Because if you get fired, what you gonna do then? So be you in the circumstance and know that this ain't gonna change the world. It's not gonna stop the world, but it could be a teachable moment for the person. All right.
Oh, I want to thank you so much. This was so inspiring. I just want to thank you, Uncle Alfonso. As always, you did not disappoint. It's always great to get inspired, especially in these